Hello everyone and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going to be previewing for you a game that is coming to Kickstarter on September 4th called Rogue Angels Legacy of the Burning Suns. Now, this game is a campaign game which will have over 80 missions. Over the course of the missions, you're going to be building up your characters and establishing and building relationships with NPC type characters based on the decisions you make during the game. I received a prototype of this game to try out, which included 4 of the 16 characters. My wife and I were able to try out those 4 characters between us, and we played the first 3 missions so far. Since this is a preview of a prototype, I will not be going over the components, as many of the components will be different than the prototype. I will start out by giving an overview of how the game plays, and then give you my impressions of the game. So the setup for each game is very simple, as opening the map book to the appropriate page and then populating the board with objects or enemies as shown in the campaign book, and it has a little picture there for you to follow. You will pick a character from various dossiers that give you some background information about the character, giving you an idea of what specialities they will have. Each character has some starting cards that are going to represent their actions that you can take throughout the game. And on your turn, you're going to do 2 actions, and there are 3 different types of actions that you can take. Now, the main action you're going to be taking is going to be playing a card and resolving it to attack, move, or interact, or some combination of those types of things. Some cards will have you rolling dice, which can strengthen the action by 1 or 2, can grant movement, or increase your shield. When you play a card, you will place it on a cooldown track based on the number that's in the corner of the card. And it's going to become unavailable until it comes off the track by moving down. And if there's already a card in a space, you'll have to place it in a higher space, making it take a little bit longer before it will cool down. Now, basic cards have a 0 cooldown, which means they immediately come back into your hand, and they can be used a second time on that same turn if you want to use them that way. Some cards are used for interacting with objects, such as doors and computer consoles, which need to be hacked into. Now, the mechanism for doing this will be drawing tokens of various colors from a bag, trying to get 3 of the same color. You can stop drawing at any time and place all the tokens of that same color by the object you are hacking. White tokens are wild, but if you draw 2 on the same turn, then all those tokens are going to go back in the bag. So once you draw that 1 white, you might want to stop, unless you're feeling lucky. Now, second type of action you can take on your turn is to concentrate, which increases your focus by 2. Focus is used to re-roll dice, and so it provides some luck mitigation. The third action type is rest, which moves cards down your cooldown track, allowing you to get cards back into your hand faster. Now, after you've taken your 2 actions, you will end your turn with a free rest action, moving cards down that cooldown track. You're going to flip your activation token, indicating that you've taken a turn this round, since characters are allowed to take turns in whatever order. And then you're going to decrease the turn token by 1. You will have a limited amount of turns to complete each section of a mission, or else you typically fail the mission and have to restart, though sometimes it just triggers a negative effect until you complete that section. Then you're going to activate the enemies. Now, the enemies have either red bases or yellow bases, which is going to determine when they are going to activate. One round after your turns, you activate the red, and then the next round you activate the yellow. Unless there's only one color in play, then they'll activate every turn until another enemy color comes in. Enemies will target based on what their attack card says, and typically will move and attack using the stats on their standees, and there are other actions they may do, and their actions may change based on things like whether they were attacked on their turn. When you are attacked, you decrease your shield value, if you have shield, by the amount of the attack, unless it's an unblockable attack. Now, any damage that is not blocked by shield is going to be taken in the form of drawing a damage card and placing it on your cooldown track based on the number in the corner here. If you have an action card there, that action card actually gets to come back to your hand, so that's kind of nice. If there's already a damage card there, then that damage card will the new damage card will move one more to the right, to the first available spot. Now, there are also sometimes triggered effects when the card is drawn, and if you are playing on hard, there are going to also sometimes be ongoing effects while you have the damage on your track. And on insane difficulty, it adds an effect when the damage is discarded also. These damage cards are going to clog up your cooldown track, making you unable to play cards in those slots until those damage cards can be discarded, which is typically done through rest, moving them down along with your action cards. If you ever have to draw a damage card and you're unable to place it because you already have 4 damage, then you become unconscious, and you'll remain unconscious unless a teammate is able to revive you with a card from their hand. You'll no longer rest, and so all of your damage cards will remain in place. Now, gameplay will continue until you have completed a mission section or until you've lost by all players becoming unconscious. Now, when you complete a section of the mission, you're going to read the next section. Sometimes you'll have a decision to make that's going to actually affect what happens next, or will affect your relationship with others, or sometimes both. Often there will be things to set up. Sometimes new enemies will come onto the board who will then activate immediately, kind of ambushing you right then. There will be multiple sections to complete, and once you complete all the sections of the mission, you win and can move into the cleanup, which may include coloring in some areas on your player board and relationships and other campaign-related actions. Let's talk about ease of access. The game is not the simplest to get into, as there are a lot of rules to learn, and some of the rules themselves are not the easiest to figure out how to apply. The range is a difficult one to fully grasp and apply, as it takes a direct path from one square to another, which, while probably the most realistic way to calculate range, is not the easiest to apply. The rulebook, however, does do a great job of showing examples of many different situations that you may encounter and how to interpret the rules in those situations. One thing I didn't know from reading the rules originally was if you could move diagonally around a corner or through a doorway as a single move. But then an example in the book showed a character doing just that. The first mission is really kind of a tutorial mission which helps ease you into the game, starting out with no enemies on the board and simply an objective to complete, which is literally just walking to a point of interest. And the next one's going to be just walking somewhere else and interacting. And then they ease you into combat with a few simple enemies. If you're feeling overwhelmed by all the rules, you can even read section by section as you encounter new parts of the game to ease into the game. The game is certainly simpler than the likes of Gloomhaven or other games of that type to learn, but since it falls into a similar style of game, by the very nature of this style of game, it's not going to be the most simple to learn, and there will probably be quite a few situations where you're finding yourself returning to the rulebook to clarify. And those examples that they show you will be especially important at that point, so it's so great that the rulebook really does a good job there. Now let's talk about the gameplay. The game starts out very slow and can be a bit fiddly at first as you try to figure things out, but stick with it and it's quite fun. The damage system is very unique and will have you puzzling out what you need to do in order to be able to do actions on your turn if you've taken a bunch of damage. And thematically it works because it's going to be difficult to focus on fighting if you have a severe fracture or if you have head trauma or an open wound. The card system works really well for your actions, and I like the implementation of the cooldown track, which means your most powerful actions will take longer to get back than some of your less powerful ones will. And with the fact that you can rest a time or two on your turn, it gives you another option to get cards back faster or to heal up. Each of the characters feel very unique because of their different cards. Your characters are also going to become more unique throughout the game because of your choices, which will lead to different personality traits, giving you more opportunities for boosts in certain areas over others. The dice play in the game adds an element of chance, but it's not without mitigation, as you can spend focus to re-roll dice. And while you often find yourself wanting to roll a certain die result, it thus far has not felt necessary to roll a specific result. The fact that enemies alternate taking turns similar to the way you alternate turns is nice and adds to the puzzle of how you should act on a turn. The AI system is also very simple to implement while still providing some variety, as the second initiative person often does something slightly different than the first, and if certain things happen prior to their turn, it may change how they act. The missions feel quite unique, even from the 3 that we have played so far. Sometimes you're focused on killing a bunch of enemies that have ambushed you. Sometimes you're trying to sneak around and hack systems without getting caught. And sometimes you're running for your life to escape an exploding ship. And that's just some of the variety found in the first 3 missions. I look forward to seeing more of the variety throughout the rest of this huge campaign. Now, the hacking mechanism is a little unexpectedly complex at first. You have to take care that you get all the rules right, but it does feel thematic in a sense that it causes you to take some time in order to hack into the system. And some of your hacks will be quick and easy, while others take some time and will have some failure along the way. Sometimes it can be downright frustrating when multiple turns get wasted by not getting the tokens that you need to hack into the computer system or into the door. Since I'm not going to delve into the components in this preview, since I've only been able to experience a prototype version, I want to take this opportunity to talk about the map book and the campaign book, and how they do a good job of simplifying things for gameplay. You read some text to tell you what you're going to do in the campaign book, and you may be given a choice, and then you set up the mission. And there's very little setup time because you simply open up to the book, to the campaign book, and tells you what map page you're going to use, and boom, here's your map, and you set it up right on the board. You have a few pieces that you're going to set up on that board, which are very simple to figure out how to set those up as well. And then each mission is broken into segments, and you don't know what will happen next. So there's some tension there, especially if you're given a choice, and what you choose is going to have a major effect on how the rest of the mission plays out, or potentially the campaign going forward. Let's talk about replayability now. I feel like this is going to have the sort of replayability of Gloomhaven. You're going to get so much gameplay out of one single run through of the campaign that you won't need to replay the game. However, with so many different characters to try out, and a campaign that has different things happen based on the choices that you make and what happens during missions to play out differently, you could certainly play through this campaign multiple times and have a different feel to the game each time. Even the few missions we've played had multiple setups based on choices that we made either before or during that mission. The 4th mission has us choosing one mission or another based on the reward that we want to go after. So on the next time we go through the campaign, we could intentionally choose to take another route. I get the sense that there are going to be tons of ways the game can change up from one playthrough to the next. And let's say you decide to play through the campaign only twice, and that's enough for you. It still would have been over 160 games just from one replay. From an amount of gameplay perspective, you are getting a great value with this game, whether you play through it once or twice or more. Now let's go into final thoughts. I'm really looking forward to the final version of this game. My wife and I love to play campaign games together, and this one feels like it's going to be a fun experience all the way through, with plenty of missions that are unique from one to the next. Some campaign games tend to feel a little samey throughout, but this one is giving me the impression that each mission is going to feel different from the others. I really enjoy also the way the game plays. Each person has their unique actions and abilities that sets them apart. The combat system works really well, and you generally have a lot of control over what is going to happen when you attack. It's not down to luck of the roll or a card flip so much. It's got a little bit of luck thrown in there with the dice and some mitigation with the focus, but you know some of your attacks are going to land anyway. The enemy attack system is unique and create quite the challenge if you're not careful. I encourage you to check out the Kickstarter campaign on September 4th to see if this game is a game for you or not. I will also be uploading a playthrough of the first tutorial mission soon, and I may even record and share a playthrough of Mission 3 in order to showcase personality traits which don't come out until then. These personality traits give you tokens you use to boost some of your actions, as well as more involved mission than the first mission. So it might be interesting to be able to show that one, show what happens in that mission. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's given you something to think about, whether this is a game for you or not. Check out the Kickstarter if you want to. Check out my playthrough, and I'm going to catch you in the next video.